In the shadowy forest of 1920s Germany, nestled on a quiet, remote farmstead, one of the most chilling and enduring mysteries in true crime history took place. 6 lives were brutally taken in a case so strange, so unsettling, it continues to confound investigators, historians, and armchair detectives to this day. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders. Mysterious footsteps in the snow, a house seemingly haunted, and a killer who may have lived among the corpses. What really happened on that cold March night in Bavaria, and why, over a century later, does this case still seem to haunt the minds of so many? Light a candle, lean in close, and join me as we explore every eerie detail of the unsolved Hinterkaifeck murders. To understand the mystery, we must begin with the family themselves. The Grubers lived in isolation about 70 kilometers north of Munich, on a farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. Despite its name, the town wasn't a formal town, but a cluster of buildings surrounded by dense woods. The closest village, Kaifeck, was just a short walk away. Anders Gruber, the family patriarch, was a stern and unpopular man in the community. Rumors swirled about his abusive behavior and possible incestuous relationship with his daughter, Victoria Gabriel. Victoria, widowed in World War I, lived at the farm with her 2 children, 7-year-old Kasia and 2-year-old Joseph. Completing the household was Andrea's wife, Kasia, and their new maid, Maria Baumgartner. By all accounts, the Grubers kept to themselves. They were considered odd by many and had little to do with their neighbors. Yet, behind the closed doors of the farm, strange and inexplainable things were happening, things that would later serve as eerie foreshadowing. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas began noticing troubling signs. Footprints appeared in the snow leading from the woods towards the house, but none returned. A set of keys mysteriously disappeared. At night, the family heard disturbing sounds in the attic. An unfamiliar newspaper was found in the house, and even their loyal dog appeared anxious and unsettled. Adding to the unease, the family's previous maid had quit 6 months earlier, claiming the house was haunted. The new maid, Maria, arrived on March 31st, 1922. Her sister dropped her off that evening. She left with a heavy heart, unaware that she would be the last person to see the family alive. These disturbing signs weren't coincidences. It painted a picture of a stalked and tormented family, perhaps being watched by someone hiding nearby. When the family failed to show up for their daily routines in the village, concern grew. Victoria missed church services, while Cecilia was absent from school. Their mail piled up, and no one had seen them in days. On April 4th, concerned neighbors formed a small search party led by Lorenz Schellenberg, a man with close ties with Victoria. They arrived at the farm and found an eerie stillness. In the barn, under hanging debris, they discovered the gruesome remains of Andreas, his wife, his daughter Victoria, and the granddaughter, Cecilia. Inside the farmhouse, the lifeless bodies of Maria and baby Joseph laid in their beds. The victims had suffered blunt force trauma, likely delivered by a mattock, a heavy farming tool. Chillingly, evidence showed that young Cecilia may have survived for hours after the attack, pulling out her own hair in agony and fear. As investigators arrived, the scene grew even more bizarre. It became apparent that the killer, or killers, had not immediately fled. Smoke had been seen rising from the chimney after the estimated time of death. The animals had been fed, meals had been eaten, beds appeared recently slept in. It was as if the murderer had made themselves a home in the very place they had turned into a graveyard. This wasn't a frenzied escape. It was a chilling calmness, a deliberate presence. Such behavior baffled the police and terrified the community. Who would be so calculated, so remorseless? Over the following months and years, more than 100 people were questioned. Chief among the suspects was Lorenz, the very man who discovered the bodies. He had once been romantically involved with Victoria and claimed Joseph might be his son. Witnesses noted his odd demeanor at the scene, his lack of visible emotion, the way he handled the bodies, and his apparent familiarity with the layout of the farm. Yet no conclusive evidence tied him to the crime. Other suspects include drifters, escaped convicts, and other individuals from Victoria's past. Some theories suggest the killer was mentally ill, probably living in the attic and stalking the family. One theory even claimed Victoria's supposedly dead husband had returned to seek revenge, but this was dismissed early on. Despite numerous theories and extensive efforts, the investigation yielded no arrest. The murder weapon was never recovered, and frustratingly, the victim's skulls sent for forensic analysis were lost during the turmoil of World War II. The Hinterkaifeck farmhouse was demolished in 1923, leaving only a simple shrine where it once stood. But the story didn't fade. If anything, it grew darker and more complex with each passing decade. Some believe the killer was an outsider who stumbled upon the family, perhaps during a failed robbery, but this theory fails to explain why the valuable belongings in the house were untouched. Others argue it was a crime of deep personal vengeance, someone close to the family who bore a terrible grudge. Still, another enduring theory suggests the murderer was living among them, hiding in the attic, waiting, watching, and finally striking. This notion haunts many who study the case. It implies a level of premeditation and psychological cruelty that elevates the horror. Books, documentaries, podcasts, and online forums continue to dissect every detail, yet no answer has ever satisfied. No suspect has ever been proven guilty. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain a dark enigma, an open wound in the history of true crime. 6 innocent lives ended in brutal silence, a mystery etched into the cracks of unsolved horrors. So what do you believe happened at Hinterkaifeck? Was it an act of personal revenge, the work of a disturbed drifter, or something even more sinister? I'd love to hear your theories in the comments. If this story intrigued you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who love diving into true crime's darkest corners. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and never ignore the whispers in the dark, because sometimes the scariest stories are the true ones.